The Star Wanderer, a sleek marvel of polished chrome and shimmering alloys, pierced the inky void, a silver streak against the cosmic tapestry. Inside, a low hum vibrated through the floor, a constant lullaby to the dozen human children on board. Each one clutched a small bag, their faces a mixture of awe and trepidation. Their destination, the legendary Interstellar Academy, a bastion of knowledge nestled amongst the stars, a place where humanity, until now, had only dreamed of setting foot. Leo pressed his nose against the reinforced viewport, his breath fogging a small patch on the crystalline surface. Outside, a kaleidoscope of colors swirled, the vibrant oranges and purples of a nascent nebula, the pinprick gleam of suns too far to count, and the ethereal dance of asteroid fields. His reflection, a wide-eyed boy with a shock of unruly brown hair, stared back at him. "It's even bigger than the holovids," he whispered, his voice hushed with reverence. He traced the path of a distant comet, a fiery tear across the black. Every star felt like a new question, every swirling cloud of gas a puzzle waiting to be solved. He had 100 ideas for what they'd learn, 1,000 inventions he wanted to build. The thought of all that knowledge, all those secrets of the universe, made his stomach flutter with an unfamiliar excitement. He grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He couldn't wait to see what rules he could cleverly bend at an academy older than human civilization itself. Across the cabin, Mia sat with her knees drawn to her chest, her small frame almost swallowed by the oversized seat. Her fingers meticulously rearranged the miniature screwdrivers and microscopic wires in her worn leather toolkit. Each item had a specific slot, a testament to her precise nature. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, but a faint, almost imperceptible smile played on her lips. The academy was a dream she hadn't dared to fully articulate, a place where her affinity for intricate mechanics wouldn't be seen as peculiar. She imagined the workshops, the advanced materials, the sheer scope of the problems they'd be presented with. A nervous tremor ran through her, but it was quickly overshadowed by a surge of quiet determination. She adjusted a tiny wrench, its metallic gleam catching the ambient light. She was ready. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew her hands, and the tools they wielded, would find a solution. The hum of the Star Wanderer deepened, a subtle shift in pitch, signaling their approach. The distant speck of the academy grew, resolving into an intricate web of shimmering structures. First impressions. The academy's grand archway loomed, its iridescent material shimmering with an inner light that seemed to pulse with ancient knowledge. As Leo and Mia stepped onto the polished, pearlescent ground, a murmur rippled through the assembled alien students. Beings with skin like shifting nebulae, limbs that articulated in impossible ways, and eyes that held the wisdom of millennia turned their gazes upon the two humans. To them, Leo and Mia, with their simple bipedal forms and unadorned skin, must have seemed like particularly small fluffy insects that had somehow wandered into a highly exclusive terrarium. One particularly striking alien, whose multiple arms spiraled with intricate luminescent patterns, extended a digit towards them, a low chuckle rumbling from its vocalizer. "Are these the new applicants?" A voice like chimes in a breeze echoed, though its source was unclear amidst the throng. Leo, ever curious, strode confidently towards a sleek, featureless door panel. He spotted a subtle indentation that looked suspiciously like a button and pressed it with a decisive click. Nothing. The door remained impassive. A ripple of suppressed snickers spread through the alien crowd. A tall, willowy student whose form was all sharp angles and fluid grace tilted its head back and let out a full, ringing laugh, its 4 slender arms waving in amusement. With a barely perceptible shift in posture, the door hissed open, revealing a bustling corridor beyond. Leo blinked. "Thought command, huh?" he muttered, mostly to himself, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Guess I'll need to work on my mental telepathy." Mia, however, felt a familiar pang in her chest. The effortless elegance of the aliens' interaction with the door, the sheer unspoken advancement of their technology, was a stark contrast to the clunky, tactile world she knew. Her gaze swept over the intricate designs woven into the architecture, the almost organic fluidity of the academy's structure. Disappointment, a quiet, persistent hum settled in her heart. She'd always prided herself on her ingenuity, her ability to craft solutions from seemingly nothing. But here, amidst such effortless mastery, Her own creations suddenly felt like clumsy, childish toys. Her hands, usually restless with the urge to build, hung still at her sides. They truly were light years ahead. The professor's verdict, the lecture hall, a cavernous space of shimmering crystalline walls, hummed with the low thrum of alien technology. Professor Zorp, his three large, iridescent eyes sweeping over the assembled students, cleared his throat. The sound was a resonant, deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very floor. He was a being of impressive stature, his elongated limbs ending in delicate, multi-jointed digits, his skin a shifting tapestry of deep purples and blues. "Students," Zorp began, his voice a precise, modulated tone, "today we address the matter of our newest additions." His gaze, weighted with an almost palpable skepticism, settled on Leo and Mia. Leo stood a little straighter, a spark of defiance glinting in his eyes. Mia, ever more understated, shifted her weight, her fingers subtly tracing the intricate patterns on her worn backpack. "After careful deliberation and extensive review of your species' foundational knowledge," Zorp continued, a dismissive flick of one of his lower appendages underscoring his pronouncement, "it has been determined that your kind is too simple for our advanced lessons. Your cognitive frameworks, while functional for rudimentary survival, lack the necessary complexity for true academic engagement at the Interstellar Academy." Leo's jaw tightened. He felt a hot flush creep up his neck, a familiar prickle of indignation. His fists clenched at his sides, knuckles white against his skin. Too simple? He'd built a working fusion reactor out of scrap metal and a toaster in his garage, for crying out loud. The sting of the insult was sharper than he'd anticipated, a mix of frustration and a genuine pang of hurt that cut deeper than mere pride. Zorp, seemingly oblivious to the human reactions, pressed on. "Therefore you may observe, you may attend lectures, you may sit in the designated viewing areas, but you will not participate. You will not engage in practical exercises, nor will you be eligible for grading or certification." Mia's shoulders slumped, the vibrant anticipation that had fueled her journey across the cosmos deflating like a punctured balloon. The initial burst of excitement, the thrill of walking these alien halls, was now a dull ache of disappointment. Her gaze fell to the polished floor, the intricate design seeming to mock her dashed hopes. The silence in the hall, broken only by the soft hum of the alien technology, felt immense, crushing. Observing wasn't learning, it was watching from the sidelines, a perpetual outsider. Watching and waiting. The observation deck offered a panoramic, if somewhat disheartening, view of the Academy's bustling lower levels. Leo and Mia, pressed against the cool, transparent steel, watched the other students. Their vibrant, iridescent scales shimmered as they effortlessly manipulated complex machinery. A group of young Xylos, their multiple limbs a blur of motion, were assembling a miniature star drive, not with tools, but with focused thought, the components levitating and clicking into place with a faint hum. Across the vast hall, a cluster of viridian sprouts, no older than Mia, coaxed nutrient paste into blossoming, edible flora with a gentle mental push. It was a stark reminder of their own limitations, their human hands feeling clumsy and slow compared to the telekinetic finesse of their peers. A quiet ache settled in Leo's chest. "Look at that," Mia murmured, her voice barely a whisper, pointing a slender finger at a particularly intricate energy conduit being woven by a youthful Phelan. "They don't even touch it." Leo nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. He pulled a worn stylus from his pocket and flipped open a small dog-eared notebook. His pages were already filled with frantic, detailed sketches of every alien device and process they'd witnessed. He meticulously copied the Phelan's work, attempting to diagram the invisible energy pathways, the subtle shifts in aura he perceived. He felt like an anthropologist studying an advanced civilization, except he was supposed to be a student in it. A faint, mischievous glint entered his eyes. If he couldn't do it like them, he'd just have to figure out how they did it. Later, during a particularly dull lecture on the socio-economic implications of asteroid mining, a subject delivered by a monotone, gelatinous blob that pulsed with soporific regularity, Mia's attention drifted. Her small, nimble fingers, hidden beneath the lip of the observation console, were anything but idle. From a collection of discarded wires, tiny discarded circuits, and even a few fallen metallic scales from passing students, she began to assemble. Her concentration was absolute, a silent defiance against the droning lecture. With painstaking precision, she twisted, soldered with a miniature heat pen she'd scavenged, and connected, her breath held. A faint, almost imperceptible whirring sound emerged from her cupped hands. Then, a minuscule six-legged contraption, no bigger than her thumb, detached itself from her palm and scuttled silently across the console, its tiny optical sensors glowing faintly. The alarm blazes. The simulated sun of the main quad pulsed with a gentle, artificial warmth, casting long purple shadows across the polished chrome steel pathways. Leo was attempting to levitate Professor Zorp's antique data slate with his mind, a mischievous glint in his eye, while Mia meticulously adjusted the miniature gyroscopes of her latest atmospheric sensor. Then, without warning, a shrill, piercing wail tore through the Academy's serene morning. It wasn't the usual drill alarm. This was deeper, more guttural, a sound that vibrated in their very bones. Red emergency lights flared to life, bathing every corridor and open space in a pulsing crimson glow. Holographic warning icons materialized in the air, a monstrous, amorphous silhouette, tentacles trailing, pulsating with an eerie internal light. "Gloom Beast," a synthesized voice blared, unusually devoid of its customary calm. "Proximity alert, impact imminent." Panic erupted. Xenian students, usually so composed and intellectually focused, scattered like startled comet moths. Their multifaceted eyes widened in alarm, their various appendages flailing as they rushed from lecture halls and research labs. Hover carts, typically gliding silently, now bumped and skittered, carrying frantic professors towards the command center. A six-limbed librarian, usually a paragon of tranquil order, shrieked, dropping a stack of ancient data scrolls, which tumbled across the floor in a shimmering cascade. Professor Zorp, who had been mid-lecture on advanced quantum mechanics, burst from his classroom, his usually immaculate robes slightly askew. His brow furrowed in a rare display of genuine concern, his mind crystals glowing intensely with urgent calculations. He barked orders into a comlink, his voice sharp and unyielding, demanding updates on the Academy's energy shields. Leo and Mia locked eyes across the quad. The playful sparkle in Leo's gaze had been replaced by a raw, primal fear, yet beneath it, a spark of intense curiosity flickered. Mia's usual quiet focus had sharpened into an almost unnerving clarity. Her delicate, nimble fingers, usually so precise with intricate machinery, now clenched into tight fists. The image of the Gloom Beast, a colossal space jellyfish with tendrils that could siphon planetary energy, replayed in their minds. It was massive, a drifting leviathan of cosmic horror, and it was heading directly for their home. Alien powers fail. A shimmering, almost imperceptible wave of mental energy surged from the Academy's highest spire, aimed directly at the colossal, amorphous mass that was the Gloom Beast. Professor Zorp, his three ocular stalks quivering with an academic certainty, watched from the main control room. "Observe, initiates." His voice, usually a resonant hum, was laced with a touch of condescension as he addressed the nervous students. "The integrated psionic matrix, a marvel of interstellar engineering. It will simply dissuade the creature." However, the creature remained undeterred. The wave, meant to induce a profound sense of disorientation and retreat, seemed to ripple harmlessly across its viscous surface. If anything, the Gloom Beast's sluggish advance accelerated, its dark form blotting out more of the distant nebulae. Zorp's central eye twitched. Another, more focused burst of telekinetic force was launched, strong enough to shatter a small moon. The Gloom Beast merely shuddered, a ripple of purplish black consuming the energy, absorbing it without a discernible effect. A low guttural growl, almost a vibration more than a sound, emanated from the creature, rattling the very foundations of the Academy. Outside the panoramic viewport, the main energy shield, usually a steady, cerulean dome, began to falter. Pinpricks of light, like failing circuitry, sparked across its surface. A low hum, which had always been the shield's reassuring thrum, now wavered, dipping in and out, replaced by an alarming crackle. "Impossible," Zorp muttered, his voice losing its usual authoritative tone. His three eyes darted from the failing shield to the impassive monitors displaying the Gloom Beast's energy signature, immense, unyielding. The shield flickered violently, sections of its shimmering blue disappearing entirely for heart-stopping seconds before sputtering back into existence. It was like watching a fragile soap bubble about to burst. Panic began to ripple through the control room. Alarm klaxons, previously muted, now blared, their urgency slicing through the air. The intermittent darkness as the shield struggled created a strobe effect, highlighting the growing terror on the faces of the alien faculty. Zorp's mandibles clenched. The creature's immense mass was now perilously close. Soon the shield would give way completely, and the gloom beast would collide with the Academy, tearing through their sanctuary like paper. The advanced alien defenses, the vaunted mind powers, had failed completely. A small solution. The hum of the failing shield pulsed through the deck plating, a low, unsettling thrum that vibrated in Leo's teeth. Professor Zorp, usually a paragon of composure, was flailing, his four ocular stalks swiveling wildly. Sparks spat from a ruptured conduit near the core, a violent miniature lightning storm against the muted chrome. "This is an outrage!" Zorp shrieked, his voice cracking with an uncharacteristic edge of panic. One of his tentacles, usually reserved for delicate data manipulation, smacked against a console. "We need someone to fix the shield's power core, but it's too small and dangerous for our tentacles." He retracted the appendage with a shudder, the fleshy tips far too large to navigate the intricate, sparking cavity. "The aperture is barely wide enough for a single digit, let alone a repair unit." Leo watched the professor's frantic gestures, his mind racing. Alien technology, so often grand and sweeping, seemed utterly stumped by something so small. Their solutions always involved massive energy conduits or complex bioorganic reconfigurations, never anything as simple as a tiny, precise repair. He glanced at Mia, who stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the sparking core. Her usual quiet intensity was amplified, her brow furrowed in concentration, not fear. Then, a flicker of memory. Mia, hunched over a workbench in the corner of their shared lab, her small fingers manipulating even smaller components, a whirring no bigger than her thumb. "Mia," Leo whispered, the realization hitting him like a jolt of static electricity. He nudged her arm gently. "Your robot, the one you built for micro-repairs in the fabrication lab. It's tiny, remember? The one you called Scuttle?" Mia blinked, her wide, dark eyes slowly turning to him. For a moment she seemed lost in thought, the faint glow of the failing core reflecting in their depths. Her lips parted slightly, a soft gasp escaping. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in dawning comprehension, a spark of pure, unadulterated genius igniting within them. The small, secretive invention she'd poured hours into, the one the Academy had dismissed as a mere toy, could actually be the key. The impossible, dangerous task was suddenly, gloriously within reach. Professor Zorp, still pacing and muttering about the primitive limitations of his species, paused. He looked from Leo's eager face to Mia's suddenly radiant one, a flicker of bewilderment crossing his many eyes. He hadn't heard their hushed exchange, but the shift in their demeanor was unmistakable. Hope, a concept he was beginning to associate solely with these peculiar humans, had re-entered the room. "Tiny hero, big fix." "It's the only way," Mia's voice, usually a whisper, cut through the panicked murmurs in the control room. Her fingers danced across the compact keyboard integrated into her wrist-mounted device. The small spherical robot, no larger than a grapefruit, hummed on the console before her. Its optical sensors glowed a soft blue, awaiting commands. Professor Zorp, his brow furrowed with galactic worry, paced before the flickering main screen. A primitive drone? Child, we are facing an energy cascade. The structural integrity of the Academy shield is failing. We need a sophisticated power conduit recalibration, not a toy." "It's not a toy, Professor," Leo interjected, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Mia built it. It's got a sonic repair array and a microfusion welder. It's designed for tight spaces." Mia ignored them, her focus absolute. A final burst of code, a silent confirmation, and the little robot sprang to life. With a barely audible whir, it zipped from the console, a streak of metallic silver heading directly for the sparking, exposed power core. Blue-white arcs of electricity lashed out, threatening to consume anything that dared approach. The robot, however, was undeterred. It slipped through a narrow fissure in the outer casing, its tiny manipulator arms extending, a blur of motion as it began its delicate, perilous work. The rhythmic clicks and whirs of its internal mechanisms were barely audible above the ominous crackling of the failing core. A hush fell over the control room. Every eye was fixed on the fluctuating power readings, on the frantic dance of the robot's tiny tools within the shattered core. The air crackled with anticipation, a heavy weight pressing down on everyone present. Outside, the monstrous silhouette of the gloom beast loomed closer, its shadowy tendrils brushing against the weakening shield, causing it to ripple like disturbed water. Then, a sudden, blinding flash. A brilliant sapphire light erupted from the power core, radiating outwards, washing over the control room in a wave of vibrant energy. The flickering screen stabilized, the ominous crackling ceased, replaced by a steady, powerful hum. The shield, once wavering, solidified into an impenetrable azure dome, pulsing with renewed strength. A collective gasp, then a cheer erupted. Leo punched the air, a triumphant grin splitting his face. Outside, the gloom beast, which had been pressing against the Academy's defenses, recoiled with a startled jolt. Its shadowy form wavered, then, with what looked remarkably like a pout, it slowly drifted away into the inky expanse of space, defeated. Professor Zorp stared at Mia, then at the humming power core, then back at Mia. His stern expression softened into something akin to awe. "Unbelievable," he murmured, shaking his head. "Truly unbelievable." Honored students. The hum of the Academy's core, usually a steady thrum beneath their feet, now pulsed with a revitalized energy. Professor Zorp, his many-jointed limbs uncharacteristically still, gazed at Leo and Mia. His 3 eyes, usually narrowed in academic scrutiny, were wide, reflecting the restored power grid. The flickering lights of the main hall steadied, casting a warm glow on the polished metallic surfaces. "You humans!" Professor Zorp's voice, often a low rumble of complex equations, now held an uncharacteristic tremor. He extended a quivering digit towards their grimy hands. "Your simple hands and clever minds, they saved us all." Mia, usually one to shrink from the spotlight, felt a strange surge of pride. Her fingers still tingled from the final connection she'd made, the unique, organic insulation she'd fashioned from the strange plant fibers of Xylos Prime doing its job perfectly. Leo, ever the showman, offered a slightly sheepish grin, wiping a streak of grease from his cheek. He'd been the one to scale the collapsed conduits, his agility surprisingly effective where sophisticated anti-gravity units had failed. Around them, the other alien students, who had previously treated them with a mixture of polite indifference and mild curiosity, now surged forward. A multi-limbed Varkian offered a genuine, toothy smile, its usually solemn face alight with admiration. A shimmering, bioluminescent lumina pulsed with vibrant colors, a clear sign of joy and approval. The murmurs of appreciation grew into a soft, melodic cheer, a chorus of different species united in gratitude. For the first time, Leo and Mia didn't feel like outsiders peering in. They felt like they belonged. Professor Zorp cleared his throat, regaining some of his usual composure, though a residual flicker of astonishment remained in his eyes. "The Academy's protocols. They are extensive, complex, designed for precision and efficiency. Yet, your primitive ingenuity, your adaptation to the unexpected, proved invaluable. It was unexpected." He paused, then added, almost reluctantly, "and remarkably effective." From that day on, the whispers in the corridors changed. Leo and Mia were no longer just observers, the strange, bipedal creatures from a distant, underdeveloped planet. They became honored students at the Interstellar Academy. Their unique perspective, their ability to see solutions where others only saw insurmountable problems, became a celebrated asset. They began to teach others that sometimes the simplest tool, the most unexpected approach, or even just a pair of curious hands, could be the most powerful. They taught everyone that being different wasn't a hindrance. It could be the best kind of special.